Good day, friends. I'm Dr. A.S.K. Gupta, and I'm going to talk to you about the hydroxychloroquine use in patients with COVID-19. You must be hearing a lot of things about various treatment protocols, but the hydroxychloroquine is one of the most used drugs in the current scenario, and a lot of hype has been created about the drug by the various politicians and the media agencies. In today's talk, we will see whether it is just an hype or there is some hope also. It takes some time to change the slide. In today's talk, I'm going to take you through the various points, namely the interest shown by the bird community, the history of the development of the drug, right from the laboratory studies to the clinical trials. How did we reach the current dosage schedule? What does the best agency in the health, that is the WHO, say about the hydroxychloroquine? What are the side effects of the hydroxychloroquine, and what are the precautions that one should take while using the drug? And what is the position of the India versus the rest of the world regarding the hydroxychloroquine? I'll start my talk with the President Donald Trump's assertion at the White House news briefing, in which he said that it could be a game changer. That's what he said on March 19, 2020. But despite the medical community objecting to his statement, he continued with his belief and repeated the same on various occasions on April 3, again on April 4. On April 4, he said, "What do you lose? What do you have to lose if you use the drug?" And again on April 5, he said, "There are some very strong signs that the drug might be effective in these patients." After President Donald Trump's initial assertions, FDA issued an emergency use authorization on March 28, 2020, and this authorization allowed the physicians in USA to use the drug to treat the patients with COVID-19. I would like to go in slight details of this emergency use authorization. There has been a lot of debate on the social media whether the drug has been approved by the FDA. Friends, this is not an FDA approval. This is an emergency use authorization. And FDA has used this power of emergency use authorization only twice in its tenure. First time it was in 2010 when the swine flu was there and the authorization was used for the drug Pramavir. Here this time it has been used for hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine. And the emergency use authorization says the various conditions in which the authorization has been issued, namely, the COVID-19 is a fast spreading disease and is a serious disorder involving the lung and various other tissues causing huge mortality. Secondly, whatever the little evidence presented to the FDA, it indicates that the drug might be useful in treating these patients. And thirdly, there are no approved available alternatives to the drug in the current scenario. But simultaneously, the FDA warns that the drug's performance in treating the patients with COVID-19 is going to get evaluated, and the drug should be used only on the prescription of a doctor. After the FDA's emergency use authorization, the CDC, that is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, went so far as to publish the doses of chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine for use in patients with COVID-19, though they later on removed it from their website. Also in India, the National Task Force on 22nd March allowed the prophylactic use of hydroxychloroquine in close contacts of laboratory confirmed cases and the asymptomatic healthcare workers taking care of COVID-19 patients. We are going to take up the details of it later on. And similarly, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India, published the treatment schedule of the drug in COVID-19 patients. The hype created by President Donald Trump went so viral all across the world that people started thinking it as the wonder drug. And the Maharashtra government in India decided that they'll be distributing the drugs, hydroxychloroquine, to the suspected patients kept in the quarantine centers in Dharavi so as to prevent infection in these patients. But is this hype backed by any scientific trials? What is the laboratory evidence? In early February 2020, Wang et al. From Shanghai demonstrated the potent in vitro activity of chloroquine against SARS-CoV-2 virus. All those people present here might not be knowing what is in vitro. In vitro and in vivo are two words that we'll be using in this presentation. In vitro would mean that the drug has been used in laboratory conditions, while in vivo would mean that the drug has been used and the effects have been noticed in the human body. So the February 22, 2020 experiment showed that the chloroquine is effective in SARS-CoV-2 virus, and it decreases the SARS-CoV-2 virus when the drug is applied to the virus containing medium in vivo 6 cells. This created an interest into the drug. Let us see how does the drug act. Before I go into the details of the drug, it is important that we understand how does the coronavirus enter the human body and how does it execute its various functions. On the left hand corner, you see a red button and you see that this is the coronavirus and it has various spike proteins, and this is the cell. On the cell, you find that there are ACE2 receptors. The coronavirus would attach to these ACE2 receptors. These ACE2 receptors, or angiotensin converting enzyme 2 receptors, are mainly found in the cells of lung, heart, intestines, and kidney. And that is the reason that these are the organs mainly affected by this virus. Once this virus enters into the cell, there are very tiny vesicles into the cell. These vesicles are called as lysosomes. These lysosomes, they start forming the proteins which are required for the virus replications. And once these proteins are formed, the viruses are replicating inside the cell in great numbers. And there are another type of tiny vesicles inside the cell, and these are called as the endosomes. These endosomes, once they are exposed to large number of viruses, they start showing certain receptors, and their receptors, they start the signaling of certain compounds called as interleukin and cytotoxin. These interleukins and cytotoxins are used to kill the virus and produce an inflammatory response. But unfortunately, the inflammatory response by these compounds not only affects the virus, it starts affecting the various tissues of the body and starts creating ARDS-like situation, where the lungs, the pneumonia starts getting worsened, the oxygen saturation starts going down. With this background, let us see how does hydroxychloroquine work. Firstly, the hydroxychloroquine prevents the attachment of coronavirus to this receptor. Once the attachment is prevented, the coronavirus cannot enter the cell. That's why the drug is found to be effective in prophylaxis, that is prevention of disease in various people who are affected, who are exposed to coronavirus, because the coronavirus cannot attach to the receptors. But is it effective in the treatment also? That is, if the drug is given once the patient has been affected, will the drug be effective? Yes, the drug is effective because once the drug is given, the drug accumulates in the lysosomes, increases the zinc concentration inside the lysosomes, and increases the pH of these tiny vesicles. And with the increase in the pH of these vesicles are no longer able to form the protein which is required for the virus replication. And when the virus replication is decreased, there is early clearance of the virus from the nasopharynx and from the oropharynx, as has been seen in various studies. Not only that, the another tiny particles, that is the endosomes, they also show the increased pH, and they are not able to express their antigens which are necessary for the cytokine expression. So the cytokine storm is prevented. Once the cytokine storm is prevented, these patients do not show the worsening of pneumonia. They improve faster and earlier. This is about the mechanism of action of this drug. It is important to note that the hydroxychloroquine is not an immunosuppressant drug, rather it is an immunomodulator, that it does not suppress the cells which are trying to produce an inflammation to decrease the virus and to decrease the inflammation in other places. Rather, they modulate the change the cell in such a way that it is able to work against the viruses but not against the body tissues. And the drug has been found to be effective not only prior to the disease setting, that is in the prophylaxis, but also after the infection, once the patient has been exposed to the virus. This is so far about the laboratory evidence with the chloroquine. What about the clinical evidence of the chloroquine in various clinical studies? That is, what I discussed till now was the laboratory evidence, that is the in vitro experience. What is the clinical experience with the drug? Gao et al. From China, they described a study of about 100 patients in which they demonstrated that the chloroquine, once used in a dose of 5 mg twice a day, is superior to those patients who were not given the drug, and it is superior in inhibiting the exacerbation of pneumonia, in improving the lung imaging findings, in promoting a virus negative conversion, and shortening the disease course. And most importantly, there are no severe adverse reaction to the chloroquine phosphate were noted in the study. So we found that there was mounting evidence that the chloroquine might be effective in the patients of pneumonia caused by the coronavirus. But it is also important to note that the lethal dose of chloroquine is about 5 grams. And with this recommended dose of 5 mg twice a day, one can quickly approach the danger threshold with the sustained use. So the duration of the treatment was reduced by the Chinese Health Commission from the 10 days to 7 days. And it was also decided that a less toxic compound, that is the hydroxychloroquine, should be considered as an alternative to be used in cases of COVID-19. Hydroxychloroquine is perceived to be a better drug because it is better tolerated, the side effects are less, the incidence of retinopathy with the drug is far more less because of the hydroxyl compound attached to the chloroquine. The drug is not able to penetrate the blood-retinal barrier, so it does not cause the retinal toxicity. And we have been using the drug for a long duration of time, for a number of years, in patients with various dermatological disorders. So we find it better and more comfortable to use the drug. And the history of the drug usage is not new. The interest in the drug started way back in 2005 and 2006 after the SARS epidemic, when it was found on the laboratory studies that the chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine both are able to inhibit the viral replication in laboratory studies, and the chloroquine was found to be 5 times more potent in inhibiting the SARS-CoV-1 virus. Because SARS-CoV-1 virus is similar to SARS-CoV-2 virus, Yao et al. In 2020 performed a study and they found that the hydroxychloroquine is much more potent than the chloroquine in inhibiting the concentration of SARS-CoV-2, that is the coronavirus. It is reverse over here. That is against the SARS-CoV-1, we found that the chloroquine was more potent, but in cases of SARS-CoV-2, it was found that the hydroxychloroquine is much more potent a drug to inhibit the concentration of coronavirus. Then now we have come to know that the drug is effective, but how much dose is to be given to the various patients of COVID-19? The dose of the drug was decided using the pharmacology-based pharmacokinetic modeling. The scientists, they found out the concentration of the drug which was required to decrease the amount of viral particles to half in the laboratory. Then they measured the concentration of drug in the lung tissue of the rats, and they extrapolated the same to the lung concentration of the drug in human beings. And based on these pharmacokinetic studies, 2 regimens were proposed. First was the regimen wherein a dose of 1200 milligram initial dose on day 1, followed by 400 milligram daily, was proposed. And second regimen, a low dose regimen, was proposed wherein the first day 800 milligram and on subsequent days 200 milligram twice a day dose was proposed. Both the regimens, it was found that the drug is effective. And even with the lower dose regimen, it was found that the lung concentration of the drug is significantly higher than those concentrations which have been proved to be effective against the coronavirus. It is so far that the drug is effective on daily basis, but it is to be noted that the chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine both have a half-life of about 40 days. So the drug is likely to provide a prolonged benefit of therapy, even if it is used on weekly basis, as in cases of prophylactic recommendations. And it was found that the lung concentration of hydroxychloroquine predicted to be still above the targeted efficacy threshold on day 1, even with a 5-day course of therapy. Now, what are the clinical trials with the hydroxychloroquine? The clinical trial with the hydroxychloroquine was published in 2020 by Gutierrez et al., and it was an open-label, non-randomized initial experience of about 36 patients, in which about half the patients were given hydroxychloroquine and half were given standard care of treatment. And it was found that in those patients who were given hydroxychloroquine, about 70% patients showed the nasal clearance of SARS-CoV-2 infection on day 6. In comparison to those patients who were not given hydroxychloroquine, and in those patients, the virus was present in more than 90% of the patients, even on day 10. So it was nearly established that the drug is helpful in the virus clearance. But in this study, the clinical benefit was not reported. I'm not saying that it was not seen. The study did not report the clinical benefit. To look for the clinical benefit with the hydroxychloroquine, let us look for the study which was presented from the Wuhan University Hospital. This year only, in which about 62 patients half were standardized to the hydroxychloroquine and half were given the standard treatment. And in this case, the hydroxychloroquine was used in the dose of 400 milligram per day. And it was found that those who were given the hydroxychloroquine, fever and cough remission time was significantly lower in the hydroxychloroquine treatment group. Besides, the patients who were given the drug showed the early signs of improvement of pneumonia. So it was indicated that the hydroxychloroquine works not only in the mild cases, but also in the severe cases. Not that all these studies of hydroxychloroquine have been found to be effective. There was a pilot study of hydroxychloroquine in the treatment of coronavirus disease, and this was a study from Wuhan, from China, and in which 30 patients were given the drug. 15 patients were given the drug, and 15 were given the standard treatment, and no virus clearance benefit was seen in either of the groups. But large number of studies have been done, and most of the studies have shown the virological clearance benefit as well as the clinical benefit with the use of hydroxychloroquine. Very popular study with Professor Didier Raoult from ECL France, in which he presented the data of about 1,061 patients, in which the azithromycin and hydroxychloroquine both were used for at least 3 days, and it was found that the virological cure rate was 92% within 10 days. And in this study, no cardiac toxicity was seen with the drug, and it was said that the drug is effective and safe if used in combination with azithromycin in virus clearance as well as the clinical improvement. This is the data of all 1,061 patients given by Professor Didier Raoult from ECL France. Those who want to go into the details of the data can download it later on from our recording. Since the time that it was shown that the hydroxychloroquine or the chloroquine is effective in patients with COVID, number of agencies all across the world, China, Korea, USA, Dutch Center, Italian Center, Canada, Belgium, Netherlands, have been using the drug in various schedules varying from 4 days, 5 days, 10 days to 20 days. And this is the table which shows various dose recommendations and various combinations of the drugs. The WHO was not silent. WHO was not very categorical in stating that the drug chloroquine or the hydroxychloroquine is likely to be effective in patients with COVID-19. The Solidarity trial started by the WHO in March, of course, had an arm in which they thought that studying the chloroquine or hydroxychloroquine might be beneficial depending upon or guided by the initial studies. The results of the trial are expected somewhere in a month or 2 months' time, which will make it much more clear whether the drug is effective or it is just an hype. Now, coming back to the Indian scenario, as you all know that the ICMR has recommended the prophylactic use of the drug in the healthcare workers who have been taking care of the COVID-19 patients and in the close contacts of confirmed COVID-19 patients in the households. We are going to talk about it slightly later. Till now, we can understand that the chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine are closely related compounds, and we have great experience of using the drug in various immunological disorders. The chloroquine has been found to be effective and treated in Ebola patients, Nipah virus, and various other viruses, but the hydroxychloroquine has been found to be effective in various studies till now, though these studies might be small studies and the data may not be very convincing to all the medical community, but there is some ray of hope with the trials available till now. There are multiple open label multi-center trials going on with the drug hydroxychloroquine and other drugs all across the world. This is about a German study which will be recruiting about 3,000 patients, and the trial results are expected by mid-June or the end of the June. And the drug, one arm of the trial will also study the role of pre-exposure prophylaxis in those healthcare workers who have been exposed to the coronavirus while treating these patients. There is another large-scale US study. The Americans are very good investigators, and they have launched a number of studies to know whether the drug is really effective or it is the hype. This is about a pre-exposure prophylaxis study which has started in Detroit, Michigan, and all those healthcare workers, the doctors, nurses, the other workers who come in contact are being recruited for the study, and the study results are likely to be expected within 8 weeks, and it will be known. And this is a placebo-controlled study, and it will guide us whether those given the hydroxychloroquine versus the placebo had lesser chances of developing COVID-19 when they came in contact with these COVID-19 patients. There is another trial, which is the post-exposure prophylaxis trial going on in Minnesota in USA, which will test the post-exposure prophylaxis with the hydroxychloroquine. That is the preemptive attempt by the medical community to treat these patients who have been exposed before they develop the symptoms. Whether by giving the hydroxychloroquine can we delay the onset of symptoms, or we can prevent the disease progression in these patients, will be answered by these studies. If you talk about various other studies, as on date, there were more than 100 studies listed on the website clinicaltrials.gov, and the number of studies being done all across India or the world is increasing day by day. I was going through the web, and a few days back, it was only 26 studies over here, but today it is 104 studies, and you will all be surprised that among all the investigational agents being tried for the COVID-19, hydroxychloroquine has garnered the maximum interest, and maximum number of studies are being done with this drug. Drugs like lopinavir, ritonavir, remdesivir, interferon beta are being studied, but to much larger extent, the hydroxychloroquine is being studied. The studies with the other drugs are say about 10, 20, 30, but with the hydroxychloroquine, today more than 104 studies are on the way, and they will guide us to the future use of the drug. Now coming back to the recommendations for the use of hydroxychloroquine by ICMR in COVID-19 patients. It is important to understand that these recommendations are only for the prophylaxis of the COVID-19, and it has been advised that asymptomatic healthcare workers involved in the care of suspected or confirmed cases of COVID-19 be given the drug 400 mg twice a day on day 1, followed by 400 mg once weekly for 7 weeks. It is pertinent to note here that the drug is being given on weekly basis, and the total duration of this treatment is 8 weeks for the asymptomatic healthcare workers. And secondly, those asymptomatic household contacts of laboratory confirmed cases, the dose is 400 mg twice a day on day 1, followed by 400 mg once weekly for next 3 weeks to be taken with meals. Here, the duration of treatment for the household contacts is 3 weeks, while here the duration of treatment is for 7 weeks plus 1 week. The duration is likely to be more in healthcare workers because they are likely to get exposed for a longer duration of time in comparison to the asymptomatic household contacts. The drug prophylaxis has not been advised in children less than 15 years of age, and those who have retinopathy, hypersensitivity to the drug, and pregnant ladies are contraindicated to use the drug for prophylaxis. Regarding the treatment of COVID-19, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare on March 31st issued guidelines regarding the off-label use of the drug in COVID-19 patients. The dose recommended is 400 mg twice a day on day 1, followed by 200 mg twice a day for 4 days in combination with azithromycin. And it is cautioned that the drug, when used, there should be monitoring for the side effects of the drug along with the monitoring of the QTC interval. I'm going to talk about QTC interval slightly late in this presentation. It is the drug treatment with the hydroxychloroquine has not been recommended for children less than 12 years of age and pregnant and lactating women. While administering the hydroxychloroquine, it is always desirable to have a baseline ECG recording to look for the QTC interval. QTC interval is basically a measurement in the ECG, and this interval tells the doctors that this patient is vulnerable to develop a serious life-threatening arrhythmia which can cause sudden death. In patients who are receiving it, though the chances of developing this arrhythmia, the ventricular arrhythmia, are pretty low, but even then, the caution is to be exercised, and it is recommended that with the baseline ECG, if the QTC interval is less than 450 milliseconds, these patients, they can safely continue to take the drug. And the group B, those patients who have a QTC interval of more than 450 milliseconds to 500 milliseconds, they can be given a drug with caution, but associated risk factors like dyselectrolytemias, they should be corrected. And group C is those patients who have a QTC interval of more than 500 milliseconds. they should be given the hydroxychloroquine only if they have a very high risk of developing COVID-19, and if they have a low risk of developing COVID-19, then they should be reassessed. And if it is decided to give them the drug, the ECG should be frequently monitored. A repeat ECG should be done 2 to 4 hours after the first dose, and then 2 days later, and later on after 4 days. And if we find that the prolongation of the QTC interval is by more than 60 milliseconds from the baseline, then the treatment with the hydroxychloroquine should be reconsidered, because the drug has the potential of causing a life-threatening cardiac arrhythmia called as the Torsades de Pointes, which can be dangerous and can cause sudden cardiac death. What are the other risk factors for the hydroxychloroquine-induced arrhythmia? Those patients who have the structural heart disease, especially those who have the ventricular hypertrophy or the left ventricular dysfunction, or the previous history of syncope or the ventricular arrhythmias, or those patients who have been given a pacemaker or other rhythm devices, they should be preferably not given the hydroxychloroquine. It is also very important to monitor the QT prolongation, because there are certain other drugs which can add on to this side effect, especially the macrolides, that is the azithromycin, which is commonly used in these patients because it has shown to have a wonderful effect. The quinolones like ciprofloxacin, ofloxacin, antacid are again the drugs which are used in the patients with COVID-19 because they have cough, and they too can prolong the QTC interval. And the various antiviral drugs like lopinavir and ritonavir, which are again used in these patients as the add-on drugs. So while using these drugs, one has to be extra cautious and keep on monitoring for the QTC interval. But on the other hand, one may not get scared with these side effects. Both hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine have a good safety record. The side effects that we just enumerated are rare. And the best thing about the drug is that it is well distributed after the oral administration throughout the body, especially in the inflamed tissues. That the drug is most available where it is required. So the drug is very good and to be used in these patients. And second, the most important thing about the drug is that it is an immunomodulator and it is not an immunosuppressant. Various other drugs like corticosteroids, methotrexate, they act as immunosuppressants. That is, they suppress the cells which give rise to immunity. But these drugs, they do not suppress these cells, rather they modulate these cells in such a manner that they remain effective against the virus, but not effective against one's own body tissues. There are some other side effects of the drugs which are not serious, but the caution always needs to be exercised. And these side effects, they include the pain abdomen, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and particular attention should be paid to hypoglycemia, that the blood sugar level can fall suddenly. And these side effects were noted in very few number of patients. The ISMR study conducted recently, which enrolled more than 480 patients, it was found that the pain abdomen is seen in about 10% of the patients, nausea is seen in the 6% of patients, and hypoglycemia is seen only in 1.3% of the patients. It is also important to note in this study, it was found that the 15% of the healthcare workers did not do their baseline ECG. So it is important that the baseline ECG be done by all the people, especially the healthcare workers who have been using the drug. A word about retinopathy. I initially said that the retinopathy is slightly uncommon or rare with the drug because of the hydroxyl moiety which is attached with this drug, hydroxychloroquine, and it prevents the drug reaching the retina and crossing the blood-retinal barrier. However, the retinopathy has been seen with the use of chloroquine after the long-term use for more than 5 years. So, as far as the retinopathy is concerned, one appears to be safe. It is also important recommendation by the ICMR that the prophylactic use of the hydroxychloroquine should be coupled with self-reporting of side effects using the Pharmacovigilance Program of India, PVPI helpline or app, which is available for the Android users and for the Apple phone users on the internet. One can download and try to report the side effects, if any. This will help us to evaluate the drug for the future use. During my talk, you must be hearing a word called as the off-label. What does off-label mean? Off-label, when you use any drug and you find that the drug packet has an insert, and that is called the label, and that label or the insert in the drug packet enumerates the various indications, the doses of the drug for which the drug has been approved. But in cases of emergency like COVID, a medication may not have been studied properly, and there can be small, slight indication that drug might be useful, particularly when there are no other medications available for the treatment of drug. The government agencies might allow the off-label drug use, as in this case. With the mounting evidence for the use of hydroxychloroquine, you would be happy to know that the treatment protocol released by the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, the premier agency of India, they have included the hydroxychloroquine in treatment of mild cases, while the All India Institute of Medical Sciences had not included the same drug in their treatment protocol about 3 weeks later. The drug is so fast evolving, and so is the disease. Our experience is increasing that larger and larger number of countries, more and more agencies are using the drug, because this is the only ray of hope which is seen at the end of the tunnel. And not only that, India is one country which has been producing more than 70% of the HCQS in the world. 3 Indian pharmaceutical companies, namely the Ipca Pharmaceuticals, Zydus Cadila, and the Wallace Pharmaceutical, have been at the forefront of manufacturing the drug. And our neighbor, even Pakistan, has asked India to supply them the hydroxychloroquine, and the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has allowed the export of the drug to more than a dozen countries. We have augmented the production of the drug, and our Prime Minister says that we have the surplus quantity of the drug, and it is a time for India to help the neighboring countries and the mankind if the drug is found to be helpful. So I hope that the hydroxychloroquine becomes a trump card, both for India as well as President Trump, and it is found to be effective in the treatment of COVID-19. A large number of people get benefit with the drug. Thank you very much. Now on to the question and answers. We have the time and we can take up the questions. Mr. Kumar wants to know what is the take on using the centralized AC. There was a talk given by the director of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, in which he stated that the central AC may not be beneficial may rather be counterproductive because central AC, the air circulates from one room to the other room, and those if somebody is infected in one room, then the air may take on the coronavirus to the other areas of the building. So it is good that people use the window AC and the split AC in the houses and in the cars because it is not likely to take the. And if one can manage, though there is no scientific study as of now, Mr. Kumar wants to know what is, how do we go about the scientific, Mr. Kumar, there is no scientific study as of now that the central AC has been, like taking the disease to the other parts of the building, but this is a natural observation, or it is a fear in the minds of various people. As the time advances, we will come to know about it. What is, how important is it, the repurposing of the older medication in COVID-19 pandemic? I do not understand. What is the question? How much various drugs are being tried in the COVID-19, and all these drugs as of now are the investigational agents, and we will come to know the various answers within a period of about, say, 2-3 months. Any impact of temperature on the coronavirus. In various studies, it has been found that if the coronavirus is exposed to a temperature of 56 degrees centigrades or 60 degrees centigrades for a period of about 20 minutes, then the coronavirus is killed. Of course, the ultraviolet rays in the sunlight may be helpful in this manner. What are the other questions? Yes, Mr. Dev wants to know that certain BP medications may affect the risk of COVID-19 infection. The BP medications are basically the drugs which affect the ACE2 inhibitors, and as I told in my presentation, that the ACE2 receptors are the ones which allow the entry of the virus into the body. These receptors, they not only have the entry point to the virus into the cells, these receptors have been found to be effective in decreasing the inflammation in pneumonia cases. So it is a two-edged sword. And as of now, the recommendation from various agencies that those patients who have been taking the ACE receptor blockers, that is the telmisartan, olmesartan, or the ACE inhibitors like Ramipril, they should continue to use the drug. There is no fear, or there is no recommendation that these drugs should be stopped. Can the virus that caused COVID-19 be transmitted through the air? There has been a lot of debate on this issue. As of now, it appears that the virus is transmitted by the droplet infection, and the droplets, they fall on the various surfaces within some time. But there are 1 or 2 studies which say that the virus, the droplets may remain suspended into the air for a long time, and that's why the various governments, especially the Indian government, has asked everybody to use masks. And about the mask, I would like to say that even the household cotton mask or the silk dupatta mask is able to prevent the droplets from going into the atmosphere and might be quite effective. One may not run after the N95 mask, and these masks may be reserved only for the healthcare workers who have been taking care of the COVID-19 patients. And the mask also remind you to not to touch the face and the mouth. How does the COVID-19 affect the patients with diabetes? COVID-19 patients with diabetes, they have a much more serious disease. But it is not that the patients with COVID-19 patients with diabetes will have more COVID-19. No, the coronavirus is not going to go and search for them. But if by chance these patients develop a disease, they will have a much more severe disease and the mortality in these patients is higher. So these patients, they should keep their blood sugar in control, follow the diet schedule, keep themselves off from the stress, and continue to take their medicine. Once completed the full course of SCQS, how long will it protect us, or how long we repeat the prophylaxis? Yes, it is an important question. As I said in my talk, that the drug has a half-life of about 40 days. So it is quite possible that the drug is likely to remain in the body in the therapeutic concentration for up to about a month or so, because the drug accumulates in the tissues, and there is no recommendation that a second course of drug be taken by anybody. And for those healthcare workers who have been exposing themselves to the corona patients, the prophylactic treatment is advocated for 6 weeks, for 8 weeks. What should I do if I get symptoms suggestive of COVID-19? The symptoms suggestive of COVID-19 are the cough, fever, and the breathlessness. And these symptoms are very common in the population because of other diseases also. And if somebody develops these symptoms, one may not get scared, but if somebody has been coughed into the mouth, or somebody has been sneezed upon, somebody has been spitted by a close contact who is COVID positive, and then one should be careful. And one thing more important for these patients is that if they develop symptoms, then they suddenly deteriorate and start showing low oxygen. But most of these patients, more than 80% of the patients, especially the young people, they do not show any symptoms. And if somebody develops the symptoms and one is scared that it might not be COVID, one can always go and get a test done. One may call the agencies who are going to take him to the places where the COVID-19 testing is being done, and the test can be done. The question is that there is no foolproof study of SCQS. Is it safe to take this drug? Yes, there is no foolproof study. The studies are going on. And I might tell you again that one may not take the drug. The drug is not indicated for the prophylaxis for the masses. It is only for those people who have been taking care of the COVID-19 patients and those people who have been taking care of the confirmed COVID-19 patients in the household. Any counter vaccine for the COVID-19 invented in India? As of now, there is no vaccine. Want to talk of India in the world, but a lot of agencies have been working upon it. Our Prime Minister has called on the scientists and the young people of India to come forward so that we can manufacture a vaccine and help the mankind. But I think we have to still wait. I was listening to the news, and it is being said that a super vaccine has been developed by the Oxford University, and they have started the mass production. But and they have been working on it for last 10 years or so, and the vaccine is likely to be available somewhere earliest in September 2020. Are we living in a fear of COVID-19 in anything coming to our home from outside? No. You should open the doors and all the windows of the house. It is well known that those people who stay in the dark, dingy corners, in the closed houses, they are likely to be much more infected with the COVID-19. Those who have good circulation of air and sunlight coming into the houses, they have less chances of developing COVID-19. So it is advisable that you live in a good ventilated houses. And it has been said that there should be minimum 10 to 12 circulations of air through the windows. Mrs. Rekha, and she seems to be from Geneva. Thank you, Mrs. Rekha. And your question is, the export of SCQ seems to be raising hope rather than the large body of evidence from clinical trial. Is it really safe to administer the SCQ and the chloroquine to coronavirus patients? Should the general public be not concerned as the rigorous testing has not been done? Yes, you are right, madam. The general public has not been advised to take the SCQ or the chloroquine. And India was very right in exporting the drug when the mankind has been suffering and we have the surplus drug. I think our Prime Minister has done it very rightly that we should give it to the world community. As of now, there is no other drug which seems to be more promising than the hydroxychloroquine. But is it really effective? Only trials will tell. Though there are no rigorous trials, and the rigorous trials are on the way, the results are not yet out. But whatever the little trials are there, they have shown that the drug has been able to cause biological clearance and early recovery in the patients who were given. So there is some ray of hope, and one has to proceed in a positive manner so that large number of people, if not benefited, are not deprived of from the benefits, if at all they appear. Any solution for the Mr. Bhuvanchand Tiwari wants to know any solution of outside eatables, including the daily essentials we are buying. Mr. Tiwari, I would like to add on that it was cleared by the Hong Kong Fruit Institute that the fruits and the vegetables have not been found to be bringing coronavirus into the household, but it is always advisable that the fruits be washed carefully before consumption, and it is all well known that whatever vegetables, if they are consumed after well cooking, the coronavirus is definitely going to get killed. What about the results of convalescent plasma trials on COVID-19? The convalescent plasma trials are on their way. The convalescent plasma is something which is to be extracted from the human beings, and there are always scarcity of such plasma because those patients who have recovered from the disease are themselves feeling weak and may not come forward. But our Prime Minister has requested all the people to come forward, and these plasma, even if it is given in small amount to the patients who are suffering from pneumonia, has shown to benefit with the early recovery, because these patients who have recovered, they have formed antibodies, and these antibodies are present in the plasma, and these antibodies are able to prevent the cytokine storm. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. In this moment, the entire world looks up to India, not only for the prevention, starting from the Namaste, which has been a tradition in India, and the Muh Patti, which the Jains in India have been using for ages, to the vaccine called BCG and the hydroxychloroquine. I once again hope that the drug becomes a real hope and is found useful, and the world community is right now looking towards India with great hope. Thank you very much all. Thank you very much once again.